voices blending, melodies ascending, harmony in the air. Our songs are never ending. In the barbershop we create magic. Brad and John Show, yeah, it's pure classic. No instruments needed, just our vocal range. Notes flying high, it's our musical exchange. Tracy's station may try, but they can't compete. Our barbershop style, it can't be beat. Oh, the harmony of voices, so sweet. In the barbershop of life, our tunes will repeat. No need for instruments, no need for a band. Just the Brad and John Show, the finest in the land.
Just a tad bit of bravado there where they say the Brad and John Show is the finest in the land. But John might say it's second best, right? Behind, what show would you say we're behind, John?
Let's see. I would say I'd start at WGN with the Bozo Show. So that was always one of my favorites. I mean, those guys can clown around even better. You got Bozo, you got Cookie, you got Wiz. I don't know, probably right behind the Bozo Show.
But you know, your buddy on Kansas City side, you're always putting him in your John Combest site. John, what's his name? Pete Mundo?
Yeah. In fact, I have a terrific interview he did with Casey Mayer, Quentin Lucas, and there's a barn burner quote in there, Brad. It's not in the top 3, but if you go to johncombest.com today, you'll see it. It's a barn burner.
Okay, well, let's start off with the top 3. Explain what John Combest does for those of you new to the show. COMBEST, johncombest.com. He puts together this list every single day. He's done it for every single day for 22 plus years, coming up on 23 years. And then what we do is we start off the show with what John deems are the top three stories on all of the stories. And sometimes there's 30, 40. You ever had 50 stories on your site one day, John?
I don't think I've counted, but yeah, I'm quite certain I have. When, we always focus on quality and not necessarily quantity.
This guy scours the state for stuff, and we started off with this guy whose name is...
I'm Casey Kasem.
And he does things like...
We're on our way to the number one...
And he starts off with...
Now we're on our way to the number one...
Hold on a minute, I screwed that up. I fat-fingered that. One more time.
In third place...
Okay, now we go.
Tuesday. It's a big day in the city of St. Louis. Do you know why, Brad?
This past Tuesday or coming Tuesday?
No, this coming Tuesday.
I have no... Oh, hold it. Aren't they going to name a street for Michael What's-His-Face?
Let's see. If you were talking about Michael Laga, yes, he is the first player to hit a ball out of Busch Stadium too, Brad. It was in 1986. We got him from the Tigers. They're naming a street after Mike Laga downtown. But the second piece of information, Brad, the second thing that's happening Tuesday is a state audit begins of the St. Louis public school system. Now, Brad, you don't reckon they're going to find anything interesting, do you?
Well, I don't know. We've already found things interesting, so I would hope they would find things as well, too.
Now, Brad, I don't want this to bring a tear to your eye, but the lead picture in the Post-Dispatch, this piece is brought to us by Blythe Bernard, who originally broke the stories about, people wanting to teleport from Texas to do their role at the public school system. And anyways, in this piece, Brad, I don't mean to bring a tear to your eye, but Auditor Scott Fitzpatrick is standing there with State Representative Donna Behringer. And Brad, they're in the Wainwright SOB. And the Wainwright SOB might not be called the Wainwright SOB State Office Building much longer. But I digress. The point is, Brad, the state is going to audit St. Louis public schools and look for, wasteful spending, potential fraud. I have one nugget from this story by Blythe Bernard that you'll enjoy. You know that when Keisha Scarlett was placed on temporary leave at the end of July, she was replaced with one of Scarlett's first hires. She was replaced by this woman named Millicent Bourashade. Do you remember the unique anecdote about Millicent Bourashade, Brad?
I do. Well, Didn't she get booted out of another school district somewhere? Wasn't that the deal with her?
Ding, 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 ding. Survey says Brad is correct. Millicent Borsche does not have a Missouri superintendent certificate. I mean, we need to get her with Jay Ashcroft. They can go get their licenses together. She doesn't have a Missouri superintendent certificate, and she received a vote of no confidence from teachers in her last school district outside Seattle. So, Brad, what could possibly go wrong?
I see, once again, to me, the board, when every single person she hires is from Seattle, except for the communications director who was coming from Dallas. Did they ever finalize that? Did that lady ever, is she actually working here now, or do you know?
Yeah, from the one from Houston, I don't think so. I think that they rescinded the offer, Brad.
Because they took so much heat of the fact that she wasn't going to live here. Wasn't that the deal?
Yeah, I think that was the deal. Well, there was a situation with a loft, and she was going to rent it, and her son, and whatever.
Well,
but come on.
Sort of reminds me of the deal with and John, you know about this. I'm pretty sure that there was controversy at St. Louis Public Radio at KWMU. They hired a new news director, and she lived in D.C. and she says she wasn't moving. And we're going like, well, no, hold on a minute now. and I'm going like, I don't understand this. Back in the day when I was young, if the boss said, we'll hire you under these circumstances, and you said, okay, what are they? And they said A, B, C. If you said fine, you got the job. If you said, I'm not wild about B and I'm not doing C, they would say, well, guess what? You're not hired. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying. Now, yesterday, Brad, you gave a mini dissertation on real estate, which I thought was really interesting because I didn't know the stuff that you were talking about. And, you talk about seller's market versus buyer's market when people use those terms. If you're willing to work, it is a seller's market because you can go to a school district apparently and say, love the fact you guys are in wherever you are in the Midwest. I'm going to work here in Houston, though. Are we good with that? Okay, that's good. So, Brad, I would expect that there will probably be some unique nuggets. Now, the interesting thing is I think there are people in good faith of both parties and probably both ideologies who want to see Auditor Fitzpatrick do the most thorough audit and investigation that his office can do. And I think there are Democrats in the city who truly want to see that.
Well, once again, the sad part of this is the kids. It's the kids. They still have a situation. Well, school start, was it next week or week after? And I think they said there's still like 20% of the students that they don't know how they're going to get to school. They're still working this out.
Most of them, I think, are going to hail a checker cab.
I mean,
they took an online training of how to hail a cab.
Right. Well, you laugh about that, but they're talking about hiring Uber drivers, and shuttle vans and things like. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't hire some limousines. Oh, look at that kid. Oh, those are the rich kids. They're showing up to work in a stretch limousine. Oh, no, that's show up to school. Oh, no, that's just one of the contracts they have. They couldn't find enough buses, so they hired a stretch limousine. It's just nutty.
They could use those the horse-drawn carriages that used to be downtown. Do they still do the horse-drawn carriage gimmick downtown?
Well, there was all the controversy. The PETA people were after them. They were trying to shut them down. I don't know. I haven't been down. Quite honestly, you're talking to a guy who used to love to go downtown. I was probably downtown, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, at least 3 or 4 times a month, sometimes more than that. I haven't been downtown except for my son lives in South City right now, except for me cutting through downtown on the way to his house. I mean, that's pretty much it. I go east on 70 and then I go south on 55. He lives off of River to Pear down in South City. And that's the only time I've ever been in the city. And it's sort of sad. But you know what?
Go ahead, Brad.
It's not just me. It's sad what's going on in the city.
I wouldn't, other than going to a Cardinal game, like I can't imagine an occasion by which I would go to St. Louis City. And also, Brad, we know that you had your own booth in Sauget at an establishment there. But in fact, at Calico's downtown, you used to have your own burger grill. They had its own dedicated Brad Hildebrand burger grill.
I loved Calico's. That was one of my favorite restaurants.
Calico's was great. I knew a young lady who worked there as a waitress, and
it was sad. It was sad to see that at one point in time they had 4 or 5 locations. Now they have 0. And you know who ran them out of business? Ballpark Village. But that's a whole nother story.
Oh, that's so typical, Brad. Now, you mentioned earlier that it's all about the kids. And that leads nicely into story number 2.
And that is a cue for me to hit this button, which is going to do
Up a notch to number 2.
that.
Brad, listen up. Your favorite 97.1 radio host, Andrew Bailey, has joined a lawsuit with 14 other attorneys general across the country, Republicans, and they're suing in a court in North Dakota, which is one of the states involved. Because guess what those Republicans are trying to do, Brad? Guess what? They're trying to keep young little babies who just happen to come to the United States illegally from getting health care under Obamacare, Brad. On November 1st, just 4 days before the presidential election, the Biden administration has a rule set up where if you came to the United States illegally and you're a minor, you can enjoy the benefits of free, Brad, free health care. Can I remind you it's free? Nobody has to pay for it. It's free. It materializes out of thin air, Brad. And Andrew Bailey and 14 other Republican attorneys general are trying to stop it. Can you believe this, Brad?
John, don't get me going on this. This is just very frustrating to me. I mean, and once again, it's not like we have this surplus of cash. I mean, what are we up to, like $35 trillion in debt or something like that? I mean,
yeah, it's some unbelievable number.
Yeah, one of those things. Is that we done with that one?
Yeah, it is. I would just point out that this content creator from the AP, who appears to be a seasoned citizen, his name is John Hanna. He does a great job in the story, Brad, pointing out the fact that illegal immigrants are actually a boon to the U.S. economy. And the stilted language he uses in here, Brad, to avoid saying illegal alien. And, it takes him like 10 words to talk about somebody coming to this country in a way that's not legal. He points out that illegal immigrants are a boon to the economy. And essentially, he says that people like Brad Hildebrand should just shut up and be happy they're here. So, maybe you could learn something.
A little bit of a side story to that element you have right there is that there was that program, which was sort of a secret program, and I don't know who broke the story on this, but they were actually chartering aircraft from various countries and flying those people in. Did you know what I'm talking about? There's a name for it. I can't remember the name of it. And somebody found out about it and go like, no, hold on a minute. Now, what's this?
Yes.
Not only are they coming across the border, we're chartering aircraft to bring them in the United States. They suspended that program because you know why?
Why is that?
Fraud. And you know what one of the fraud things was?
What's that?
When you applied to come to the United States, these people, I think it was Nicaragua and I think Cuba, a couple other different countries. When you applied to come to the United States, and once again, this is circumventing the normal immigration process. They're just letting them jump on a plane. They come here, and our country, the United States, is paying for the plane ride. They're coming here, but they had to have sponsors and they had to have a place to live and stuff like that. So when they started doing some comparison of the applications, I don't know the exact numbers, but they say that like 400 of them had the same home address they were listing, and some of the people were listing like warehouses is where they're going to live, and they were listing people who were dead as their sponsors and things like that. So finally they go, we're going to have to put a stop to this. So anyway, crazy stuff. Okay, number one.
The number one.
Big re-election kickoff took place a few different cities yesterday, Brad, and one of them was in Chesterfield, Missouri. Josh Hawley officially kicked off the general election portion of his re-election campaign. He was at the good old Warren Stemme farm in Chesterfield. Warren Stemme is a longtime member of the Missouri Farm Bureau, happens to live out in Chesterfield. Josh Hawley was also in the middle part of the state yesterday and in Kansas City, kicking off his general election campaign in which he is anticipated to cruise to victory. I would point out, you say, John, is that your opinion? No, it's not just my opinion. If you follow mainstream liberal media analysis of the election, you see that in races where Dems talk about their top targets to flip seats, maintain seats, battleground states, none of the conversations include Missouri because Missouri is not on the battlefield. It's not on the game board, so to speak, going into November. So Josh Hawley will raise a lot of money. He'll be able to spend a lot of money. My opinion, Brad, is that you could say, well, hey, Josh Hawley doesn't need to run much of an election. But if you're Josh Hawley, you want to run your margin up as much as possible. There's a big difference in perception in winning by 9 points versus winning by 15 or 20 points. And my assumption is that Josh Hawley really wants to run up those numbers this year.
I would say, dude, just save the money and when you run for president, because that's what's going to happen with him. That's.
And let's face it. Now, hold on. Are you suggesting that Josh Hawley might run for an office with a higher office in mind?
Well,
that would be an outrageous suggestion.
I don't think he's ever done that, has he? I mean, has he? Ever?
I don't think so. Next thing you're going to tell me that he wears pirate boots, and we know that that's an
they're not
myth.
pirate boots. They were pirate shoes, and he wore skinny jeans. And we need a president. See, that's what we need. We got J.D. Vance, dresses sort of conservative. We got Tim Walz. And by the way, I'm sorry, I don't mean to criticize people, but does that guy look like he's older than Biden or what? I mean,
yeah.
He looks old. And when first time I saw the picture of him recently, I thought to myself, that must be an old picture. He just looks like an old.
Hold on, Brad. You're biased because the fact that you're pushing 90.
That's
and
right.
People see you and say, he doesn't look a day over 70.
But they see the way they walk and they go, oh, my God, he must be 100. He must be 100 years old. Okay, we're a little bit early. Should we break now and have a longer break the next segment?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, I got a lot of things to talk about. And by the way, there's sometimes – I know John's sitting there when I go on one of my, tangents, and John's sitting there going, okay, we should shut up. Did you really find what I said interesting about the real estate agents yesterday?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, I did, Brad. Because, I had heard the stories about, for folks who hadn't listened, this was, I believe, on B Block yesterday, Brad, for the August 8th show. Brad, you were talking about the fact that if you list a house, if you see a house you want at $300,000, you should put an offer in around bare minimum 300, but probably 310. And among the people, Brad, that I know who've purchased houses in the last year, not a single one from what they told me got it at list price. They had to throw in an additional 20, 30. One couple, I believe, paid 40 grand over list price just to get it.
It's a stupid game. And, and once again, it bothers me because of the fact that the real estate agents, like wink, wink, nod, nod, oh, we know the value of these homes. No, you don't. If you knew the value of the homes, you wouldn't be. Because, see, the interesting thing about it is there's a parallel between the Josh Hawley story and the real estate agents. And you know what the parallel?
Tell us now.
Okay, the parallel is because I would say, okay, why is Josh Hawley even going around the state? He's going to win. There's no way he's not going to win. He could spend $1 and still win, okay? But the difference is you said it's the margin. He's got to say, well, I beat my opponent by 22 points, okay?
Exactly.
This is the badge of honor with the real estate agent. Well, my last client, we listed their house, and it was a beautiful house. We listed it at $300,000, and we got 42,000 bids over that, and we sold the house for $10.2 million.
Exactly.
And everybody
agree with you, Brad.
Everybody goes, oh, my God, you're hired. You're hired.
How do you do it? It's amazing.
Exactly. And I told you the story of a friend of mine who went to look at a house, and the real estate agent told her that the house, because the house was on the market, it disappeared off the market, showed back up. And the reason for that was they put it on the market for $350,000. They got one contract for $350,000. In other words, they got asking price. The owners of the home were so upset that nobody overbid the thing that they took it off the market and waited a week and put it back on, and it still hasn't sold. So that real estate agent, is their days are numbered. They may never sell. They may never get another listing. Because
you'll never work in this town again.
Right?
Brad, can you tell us before we get out of here? Can you tell us how you're applying this to your new property in Meacham Park?
No. Yeah, it's $10 million. It's 20 square feet, but it's $10 million.
Okay. Well, hey, listen, I understand for competitive reasons you don't want to reveal your Beecham Park location, and that's fine.
By the way, I have an idea about that. Matter of fact, do you ever heard the story? Have you ever heard the story of how Times Beach came to be? Did you ever know? I mean, I know it's gone and it got polluted and the Russell Bliss thing and the whole bit. Did you ever know the story of how that Times Beach came to be?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think that'd be interesting. You want to tell us?
Yes, next
When we come
break.
back?
Okay.